This week in crypto, we've got more news on institutional money. There's news from Coinbase, news about Binance. There's partnerships announcements from the Near Foundation, Vodafone, Warner Music, and lots more news to cover. And at the end of this video, we're also going to hop over and take a look at some charts and see how things have played out in the last week and think about how things are going to look in the weeks to come. But first, before we get into all of that, let's have a look at the big movers and the shakers this week. So I'm here on CoinGecko now, and on CoinGecko we can see the top gainers for the week, and we can see ad reward has coming in at 272%. We can see Dream Machine token 245%. Bitcoin Cash is up 115%. Compound 92%. And we also have Verge, Lovely Inu and eCash all up above 50% gains this week. Always though, we have top losers as well, and Cream is down 45%, Bob token and Meme token is down 32%, Pink BNB 30%, Dingo LFG is down almost 30%, and we can see we've got many other losers as well that are above 20% in the losses this week. Let's just jump over to the top 100 tokens, and we can see this week that Bitcoin has moved up 2% this week. Now that was after a big move up last week. Ethereum is only up 0.5%, but today alone we are up in the last 24 hours 1.9% in the overall market cap, and the overall market cap is currently trading at $1.24 trillion. So what's all of the news this week? Well, the first bit of news is that Michael Saylor and Microstrategy now holds over 4.6 billion worth of Bitcoin. They bought a further 12,000 Bitcoin in the last 2 months. That's come to 347 million. So we can see now that the company holds 152,333 Bitcoin worth 4.6 billion at the current prices. So this is a massive holding, and we can see, if anybody follows the Grayscale discount, that the Grayscale discount isn't trading at as much of a discount as it was in the past. So this was a great purchase, but it had very, very little impact on the market and what's going on in the pricing. And it may have been priced in last week's pricing when we had that nice little increase. Over in Hong Kong, they are first off the mark, where HSBC enables Bitcoin, Ethereum, ETF trading. So this is now live in Hong Kong, and HSBC have been the ones to enable it. And Watcher Guru posted this out on Twitter, just in Hong Kong's largest bank, HSBC, to offer Bitcoin and Ethereum ETFs to customers. And HSBC are a pretty big bank. They are definitely one of the bigger banks out there. HSBC rolls out Virtual Asset Investor Education Centre as well. So Hong Kong made some news over the past couple of months. The Special Administrative Region has been taking the regulatory route to embrace the industry, along with the new HSBC's Bitcoin and Ethereum ETFs. Chinese journalist revealed that the bank rolled out the Virtual Asset Investor Education Centre. So this centre is really, really important. Education, in my opinion, is key at the moment when it comes to learning about cryptocurrency and onboarding people into the Web3 space. Now, this isn't the only institutional money that is getting involved. Over in America, Fidelity has also added in to get an ETF as well. And the SEC have gone ahead and they have approved a leveraged Bitcoin future, which came as a bit of a surprise to me. It's only a 2x leverage, but this just adds to all of the other ETFs that have been applied for. And I know that ARK Investments have also applied for an ETF. So if a leveraged one has been approved, there is a good chance that these non-leveraged ones will also be approved. Now, talking about the SEC, Coinbase has now challenged the SEC, and they're looking for the case to actually be dismissed. And the points made by Coinbase is, quite fair, that they have tried to comply, that they've asked for guidance and they've asked for regulation, and that the guidance and regulation was never given to them. And what I think is going to happen is that there'll be a little bit of a battle between Coinbase and the SEC, and then somebody's just going to come in and regulate it all, and it'll all sort itself out. But it's just going to take a little bit of time. But Coinbase's basic reply is that they want the SEC to dismiss the case against them. Now, we know that the SEC also has a case against Binance, and the case against Binance is quite different insofar as Binance have been accused of not keeping customer funds separate, not keeping their US and their UK and their Euro companies separate, and wash trading and everything else. And look, I've said this 101 times. If we've got bad actors in the system, get them out. I'm quite happy to get them out. I have had faith in Binance and I have used Binance. But the more of this that I'm reading, the more worried I'm actually getting. And it looks like the West are really homing in on Binance. So this latest news is that EU officials suspect Binance is faking accounts in Ireland and in Malta. Now, what it's transpired, and this was news that I was talking to people in person about at a meetup last night, quite surprised to find out that Binance actually doesn't have an office here in Ireland, that it's just a registered virtual office. And even though there are a lot of jobs always advertised for Binance here in Ireland, it's come across now that many of these jobs are actually phantom jobs. Now, it's also transpired that the Irish company owns the Maltese company, and that the Irish company haven't been able to fully account for their revenues or their staffing, and that a lot of their stuff is actually outsourced and contracted. So the EU are now really looking in and are probably siding with the SEC when it comes to Binance. And personally, I'm going to take much more of a careful stance with Binance, making sure I'm not keeping any funds on the Binance exchange at all, and just using it literally for exchanging tokens when I need to and moving the tokens back off into my wallet. Other news this week is that if anybody is following Radix, Radix had a lovely pump in the token price this week, and then it just collapsed. And it collapsed because the Babylon release that was meant to be out next month has been put on hold. And this has been put on hold until September. And the community really took this news quite badly, and there was a dump on the token. Now, I think maybe we'll have a look at the charts in a couple of minutes. It may have recovered a little bit by now, but I know the news wasn't taken very favourably by the community. Now, I'm all in favour of delaying releases if things aren't actually right, but apparently this isn't the first delay on this, and so people are starting to get a little bit annoyed with it. So it is now scheduled to be released on September the 27th. And basically what happened is that if we just go up here, during the testnet, they'd been reviewing developer feedback, the application examples produced by the community, and crypto code that have been created by the Radix work team. And what stood out was that the gateway API was failing to address the needs of many dApp developers. Now, Radix is putting itself out there as being so easy for developers to build on, and if the gateway API is failing developers, well, then it's not living up to its standard. And for that reason alone, I think that's very, very, very good reason to delay the launch. And we'll have a look at the Radix chart when we move into the charts. Next piece of news is good news on adoption. The Near Foundation and Alibaba Cloud have joined forces to boost Web3 development in Asia. Alibaba Cloud seem to be all over partnerships in Web3. And what these will now allow people do is it will allow developers to quickly set up and run validators for Near with a plug and play infrastructure. And the company will also offer remote procedure calls as a service to developers and users in the Near ecosystem. So this is great news for the Near ecosystem and could really boost the Near ecosystem in China and the Asian region in general. Another news on adoption is Vodafone, and Vodafone are partnering with Cardano to launch an NFT. So there isn't too much news about what this is. It was a little bit of from Vodafone, does Cardano have NFTs? Join our Discord, moving to the chains. But what is important is that Vodafone is one of the top telecom companies in the world. So we can see Vodafone down here under some of the Chinese telecom companies, and they are one of the larger ones. So adoption from a telecom company is great news for the industry, and we can see more and more of this going on, especially with brands, big brands like Nike we spoke about recently. I know Adidas have been doing stuff now, Vodafone are doing stuff, and this is all about co-creating, especially with Adidas and Nike. It's co-creating with the community and like building the next generations of community and brand loyalty. Again, in adoption, we have SAP. SAP is one of the larger software companies in the world, and they are testing cross-border stablecoin payments with their clients. So what they're actually testing is cross-border USD payments, and they're currently actually on the testnet and all testing these. So they've given some of their clients some testnet USDC, and it'll allow for them to settle their invoices that are generated on systems, but other clients that are also on the testnet will be able to settle these with USDC. So this is a major piece of news that I'm surprised an awful lot more other people aren't covering, because SAP works with businesses every single day, from micro companies all the way up to super large international companies. And if they're allowing for settlement via stable coins all through their SAP system, this is just easy onboarding and adoption for enterprises around the world. More on adoption this week as well. So again, all of this is really, really positive news that's coming out of the market, where Warner Music Group partners with Polygon on blockchain music accelerator. Now, I know that MasterCard did something similar recently in terms of music, but now Warner Music are doing it, and they've partnered with Polygon Labs to launch a music accelerator program that aims to onboard the next generation of blockchain music projects and decentralized applications on the Polygon network. They are for companies and enterprises operating at the intersection of music, technology, and Web3. So if that's a sector that you're in, or if that is a sector that you know somebody in, do share this article with them, because they may be able to apply for that accelerator and get the music industry more and more involved in the Web3 space. So all in all, it's been a good week in the news. Not so great for Binance, but in terms of institutional money, in terms of adoption, just general adoption of Web3 and crypto, there is really good news coming out. So how has this affected all of the charts? Well, this is the Bitcoin chart, the daily Bitcoin chart, and the last few weeks I've been sharing charts at the end of this video, and what I have on this chart is the HULL, the HULL moving average, and I also have the 50 moving average here. So this is the daily chart, so it's the 50-day moving average. And last week we bounced above this, and we're still trading above both the HULL on the daily moving average and the 50-day moving average. Now, with all of this institutional money come in, we know that Microstrategy has already made their purchase. We have yet to see, and all of this big pump here was news of the EFTs that were applied for. So I'm not sure now what's going to happen. We should probably come back down, retest this HULL. When we retest the HULL, it'll be interesting to see if we can actually manage to hold it. Now, this is on the daily chart, and the HULL isn't as strong of an indicator on the daily chart as it is on the weekly chart. So let's just jump over and have a look at this on the weekly chart. So we can see last week we closed above the whole. If you remember 2 weeks ago, I was quite concerned because we had closed below the whole, and previously when we closed below the whole, we actually stay below the whole for quite some time. So this may have been a fake out, but it's yet to see. We're also still above the 50-week moving average, so it'll be interesting now to follow this. However, I've also been looking at the DXY, and on the DXY on the weekly chart, we see that the weekly whole turned green there a couple of weeks ago. Now, we are still below the 50-week, and we can see we had a lower high, but we also may now have formed a higher low. So we may see a switch around a little bit in the DXY, and that usually goes opposite to the way Bitcoin goes. And we can also see in the RSI that the RSI is on an upswing on the DXY. So it'll be interesting to see how this all plays out. Looking at Ethereum has stayed below the whole on the weekly average, and it's trading between the whole, but it's still holding the 50-week as support. Matic, we can see, is well below the whole, and it is struggling to find ground after the sell-off. Don't forget, Celsius are selling off all of their altcoins for Bitcoin and Ethereum, and I think that's due to happen fairly soon if it hasn't already happened. The same with Solana. Solana is still below. We need to kind of zoom in a little more to see it on this chart. It's still below the whole. It's also below the 50-day. This, again, as I said, is the weekly chart. Let's have a look at the Radix chart. I'm going to go into the daily Radix chart for a minute. And we can see this was the run-up as people were starting to get excited about the Babylon release. And then when the news came out that Babylon was actually put back, we can see this massive drop in the token price, bringing us all the way back to where we were in June and on the 16th of June. So we really wiped out all of the gains that had been made from there. Now, we did have a little pullback from this dip, but we managed to bounce off the 50-day and it's on the way back down again. So we are on the daily below the whole. If we switch to the weekly chart, again, we're actually below the whole at the moment, and we're finding support there on the 50-day. Let's have a look at stacks, because stacks, as I had said a number of times, this is one that I'm quite bullish on because of all of the building that's going on Bitcoin at the moment, with ordinals and stamps and inscriptions and everything else that's going on. Bitcoin layer 2s probably could be a narrative for the next bull run. So we can see we are under the hole, but we have been under the hole for quite a few weeks on stacks. We did bounce up over it, but came back down below it. But we have been using this 50-day as support. So hopefully we won't lose that 50-day support. We can see the RSI is going down. And just looking then at Polkadot and the dot chart as well, we're under the hole. We're a good way off the 50-day moving average. We bounced off it back here in April, and we haven't managed to retest it yet. So I'd be waiting for a retest of that 50-day in a couple of weeks. Now, if we do retest this, and if we break above it, what I'd be looking for is for us to close well above it. Let me just make this chart, zoom in on this chart a little bit more. The previous high was about $7.96, nearly $8. I'd want us to be closing above $8 on this before I actually turn a little bit bullish, and dependent on indicators and that. Are there particular charts you'd like me to take a look at in next week's? Now, I'm going to be honest with you peeps, I'm not really that interested in looking at meme coins and tokens that don't have any sort of utility or use case. But if there's any particular protocols or blockchains that you would like me to take a look at in the charts next week, do comment below in this video. And if you've enjoyed this video, I hope that you'll smash that like button and subscribe to my channel so you don't miss any more of these videos. I'll be back next week with another update. Goodbye now.